Welcome to the Council of Moms. Here on the Council of Moms, we're really interested in creating empathy for each other, sharing our experiences, good and bad, ugly and beautiful and good, in the hopes that it will really encourage us to re-up our efforts in mothering and also be kinder to ourselves. I think that the thing that I like the most about the Council of Moms and why I'm so glad that you're watching this is because it will open us to different perspectives and give us a sort of bird's eye view of maybe the particulars of our own parenting experience. So I'm really excited for this assembly today. I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves and also to share a parenting moment that for whatever reason sticks out in their minds. So I'll start. Whenever someone says, hey, how's parenting? Or what do you think about parenting? The first story that comes to mind is when my second, Owen, climbed the roof of our house that we had moved into that first week. They were 2 years old. I didn't know that they could do that. They did it. It created panic and a fun story because everyone's safe. But it was really like a singular moment that I think of, there's new and surprising ways that parenting will stretch you and present you with situations you never thought you'd be in. And you have to solve it right in that moment and figure out how you're going to deal with it. So that's the moment that really sticks out to me.
Yeah, I'm Kimberly Simmons. And a moment that sticks out to me was recently. Okay, so when we moved to Utah a few years ago, I was like determined to get a ski pass. I did, but I didn't. I had little kids, so I've taken them skiing like all the time, frequently, all winter long. And this last winter, I got everyone on the hill and down the mountain for one really like crazy run. And I mean, I'd worked for like 8 years with a lot of meltdowns and a lot of schlepping skis while I was pregnant and not pregnant and holding kids and stuff like that. But everyone got down the mountain, and I feel like it was a big parenting win in my year. And I'm gonna and so that's that's my parenting moment.
I love
it. I am Emily Spencer, and I was a first-time mom. Scary, as we all know, right? Raising a toddler for the first time. And this was a particularly challenging moment with this toddler. And I remember kind of looming over and disciplining or getting angry or whatever it was at this toddler, and maybe doing a little more lecturing than I should have been doing for the age of this child. And they just looked up at me and said, "You're the best, Mom."
Oh, man.
And I thought, I'm in for it. This is going to be an interesting journey.
That's awesome.
That's great. They have they can read you already.
They already.
I'm Marilyn Valentine. The parenting moment that I think I was thinking of just this moment, when my oldest was small, we lived in this old bungalow in Omaha, and she was in the bathtub, and I guess she wasn't feeling well, and she threw up mac and cheese in the bathtub, and she said, she was so upset that she had spit out all her food. She's like, "I spit out all my food," and it was just so funny how to deal with, you've got a sick kid, but they're worried about that, they aren't accepting that the food that you gave them. It was so funny.
It's so funny. It's amazing to me, especially as parents, how certain events, and they can just be everyday things or, panic-induced moments, what really stays with us. And maybe I'm feeling nostalgic because, my kids are getting older and things like that. But it is interesting, what sticks. And I think we can use that, for good or for bad in our lives, right? If, we only remember the bad or we only remember the good. And so it's interesting to hear everyone's response to that. I think it's a great way to, sort of break the ice into, what kind of moments have made you into the mom that you are, right? We asked our audience, what parenting questions or just questions in general do you have for the Council of Moms? And we took it really seriously. And and I organized them and I kind of looked at them in categories. And one that was asked in a different way, but definitely the theme was about mental health. And I found that so interesting because with social media, with the pandemic, we know we can see the results that our kids are struggling, particularly with mental health. And obviously, the questions from council to the Council of Moms reflected that. And so, I'm going to ask 2 questions, and you can answer it however you want to. With the preface of saying, I'm really excited because you all have experience with this, either in mothering or professionally or a combination of both, right? So, whatever you feel, feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable with, knowing that people. I mean, this is on the top of most everyone's mind. So, the 2 questions are this. The first one is, how do you know when it's serious enough that you either see a therapist or you seek professional medical care, and it's just teenagers going through a change? Or young adults, how do you know? Where is that point where you get help? That's the first question. And the second question that's kind of related is, what can we do to really strengthen our kids' mental health and their resilience? What kind of practices are best? And so I would like you to just kind of, if you don't mind, explain what sort of personal connection you have to mental health, and then answer whichever question you'd like. And that seems very formal for the Council of Moms, but I felt like it needed to be a little bit more formal because it's a serious issue.
I was thinking earlier about the first question and decided to go with a more lighthearted answer. So I had all my kids together. This was about a year ago. And we're watching a movie because it's really super hot in St. George in the middle of the day, so we would go play at night. But we watched Red, the Disney movie that's about coming of age. And as soon as that was over, I turned to all of my children and realized that my children are 25 to 15 and said, I want you guys to know that I recognize that each of you are your own person, and I am not trying to live vicariously through you. But if you have something you want to talk about that you feel like I'm trying to make you do right now, let's talk about that. Let's have a conversation so that we can start to change behaviors that are affecting you. So I feel like looking for those moments when you give your children the opportunity to have serious conversations about how they're feeling, because it's weird to just kind of bring it up. So kids,
Yeah.
But I was grateful for that opportunity.
And how did they respond?
I learned some things about that. Some of them felt like I was trying to live through them and to change my behavior a bit.
Wow.
So I felt like that was helpful for our roles. And just a recent conversation that I had with my third, I was explaining my philosophical beliefs basically to her. And I could tell I touched on something because her behavior, she went to a kind of a defensive body language. And I said something just now that offended you. What was it? And it was another good opportunity to have conversations. So I think for mental health, and this is something that we didn't really grow up with, and I certainly don't think our parents did, that given the permission to have more significant conversations about how we feel and what's important to us are something that hopefully we're embracing more.
I love that. And I would like to speak to that and both of these questions because I'm a registered nurse, most recently worked in mental health. So I feel pretty passionately about this.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to work very closely with a psychiatrist in our community. So I was able to hear a lot of his thoughts on this and his opinions. And so kind of going back to your first question of how do we know when kids need more help? So, kids, teenagers, they're going to experience distress at some level along the way. They're going to experience ups and downs and struggle with their mental and emotional health. But it's when their mental health interferes with their ability to function, whether that's go to school, or if they're a teenager that that is unable to show up for a job, when they have difficulty going out with friends, difficulty in relationships. So we start to see some sort of impairment. That's when we usually encourage seeking additional help, whether it's seeing your doctor, your pediatrician, to look at medication as a resource, or a therapist as a resource, or something like that. So again, it's some sort of impairment, whether it's school, relationships, a job, just the things that they need to be doing, they're not able to do. So that's usually kind of the guideline that we have to help tell parents when they need to seek additional help. And then to your second question, which goes right along with what Marilyn was saying, one thing that this psychiatrist talked about often was this environment of emotional safety and connection, that if we can create that for our kids, it really goes a long way. Obviously, there's the aspect of building resilience, which we can talk about a little more, but just that initial emotional safety where kids feel like they can talk to their parents about anything, and they feel that connection. So it really, really does go a long way. So those were just kind of two things I wanted to share for those questions.
That's wonderful.
Right. Well, I think I'm still really learning here. I have young kids, and I am always, their mental health is always like something that I'm thinking about, but I haven't had experience in needing to seek additional help. But I feel like where I'm at in my parenting phase is I am always searching for tools for them to try to manage things on their own. And I there's another level here, but like I just done these baby step things like, oh, you can't sleep at night. Okay, well, let's work on what, try to research and figure out all the tools we can work on together to learn how to do this better. Or you're struggling in school, you're struggling with a friend or whatever. I feel like and I'm not unique in this or anything, but I'm trying to teach them the tools that they have within themselves, and not, instead of seeking like first step of, in the sleep thing, like first step being melatonin. I mean, not that that's a bad thing, but just trying to seek inside themselves of learning these steps, or when you're sad, like what you can do to regulate your own emotions and regulate yourself, and instead of just, throwing a screen at them to help them feel better. So, I'm like looking at you guys trying to learn all these things. I think we will be in those stages where we need additional help. And I hope that I'm concerned that I would ever wait too long in any of these. And I wonder, is there a too soon time to get help,
I don't think there is. But I think if you're to the point where you're asking yourself, or the kid, you're at the end of your resources, your personal resources. If you come to the question in your brain that's, I really don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Help is absolutely, you should seek help. I've had some of my children actually ask to see a therapist. And so we've done that. And the emotional relationship with my second oldest was really tumultuous. And we did therapists for a lot of years. And I think it was helpful. Honestly, I think the most helpful thing was the dog. The dog was extremely helpful, because the dog would tell me that he loved me through my second oldest voice all the time, even though the second oldest didn't want to be talked to or hugged or, But I don't think you can do too early. If you're struggling, then talk to your pediatrician and talk about, getting therapists. A lot of their pediatricians either have therapists that they work closely with, or sometimes there's even therapists that come to the pediatric office.
I love that we're having this discussion with, different life experiences and different ages of kids. Because when I hear you talk, I think, oh, yeah, it is reminding me of tools that I can use with my adult children as well. Do you know? I think sometimes we think, oh, I don't know because my kids are younger or whatever, but we do. A lot of that does transfer of helping them to self-regulate, of the kinds of questions that we ask, the way that we help to problem solve. When our kids come to us at any age, how do we respond? And that sort of level of trust. I love that, and I love being reminded of that as well. I also have the experience of some of my kids coming and saying, I'm not doing well, I need help. And there is something just absolutely gutting about hearing that, even though it's so great that they're asking for help. It's the best case scenario, but it still feels so hard when you hear your baby, who's looking at you, they're not a baby because they can talk. And they're asking for help and they're having real big feelings. But I do think that the way that you react afterwards, that's been a hard thing for me to learn, that and in dealing with like mental health, of not reacting, of relaxing my face and asking questions and not being like, which is how you're feeling inside, because you don't want to give the wrong impression to your kid that this is totally, it is devastating, because you don't want your kids to go through hard things, although you know that they have to and that's part of life. But being that person that's, tell me more, I absolutely will follow through. I will make that appointment for you. I know that means that feels overwhelming to you. I would like to help you. I'm going to follow up. Here's how I'm going to follow up. And making it, reassuring, and knowing that when they ask for help, which is hard to do, that you will follow through, is instead of, and in the draw, don't get me, is really strong, just to be like, oh, let's just pretend it never happened. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to ask my kids about that. It's so much easier not to. It really is. But it's not what's best for them or for you, for your relationship or their mental health. So sort of leaning into that uncomfortable and the uncomfortable conversations. And then dealing with that, how that makes you feel later on your own, is an important thing that I've learned.
And I think as parents, we can practice that in our head. We can decide right now how we're going to respond with whatever our kids come to us with. We should just practice. The first thing we're going to say, I love you.
Yeah.
And just practice that. Just prepare yourself. You will have those difficult conversations with your kids. You will. They will come to you with, you won't even know. And you'll just need to, and that first thing you're going to say is, I love you.
Yeah. And
then going along with that, I do think as parents too, we can model to our kids that it's okay to ask for help. By even apologizing to our kids that, we did our best. I'm sure we made mistakes. We're still learning. We're seeking help. It's okay to see a therapist or be on medication or whatever. So I think we can model that to our kids, that's okay to do that.
And when they see us taking care of our mental health or taking it seriously, it does stay with them. Like in the back of their mind, they're thinking, oh, okay, so that's what I do. So whereas before, I think my inclination would have been to keep those things private. If, of me seeing a therapist or taking medication, I would have been like, oh, that's private, that they don't need to know about that. And now I think the opposite.
Because we need to normalize it.
Because we have to
We've
normalize
got to take away the stigma.
It's like going to the dentist.
Yes.
Honestly.
Yes.
And
the
the
more
doctor.
we talk about it, the more
we need to
normal
talk
it'll be.
about
Yeah.
it. And I remember when the kids were younger and when their dad had the terminal diagnosis. So he was going to a therapist and they were like, Dad's going to a therapist? And I was like, yeah, of course he is.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like really making it no big deal. And then obviously that's something that I didn't see coming. And with the death of their father, that first year after, I was absolutely obsessed with their mental health. How are you feeling? What's going on? How are you grieving? What's doing? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need to talk to somebody now? Do you need a timeout? What do you need? What can I, and it was too much, but I actually don't regret it. That was the phase that I was in. I can see looking back, it was too much, but my anxiety, my grief was caught up in, well, I have to make sure my kids are okay. And here's the thing, they weren't okay. But they shouldn't have been. They were grieving the death of their father. Like, these are legitimate reasons to be sad, to be depressed. we have a family history of depression and anxiety. So of course they were, going to struggle. But not taking that personally was so important. Normalizing it and making it of like, I would feel better if I had a conversation. One of my kids was not doing well, and I could see they did not want to see a therapist and really fought me on it. And we're like, why? Do you think there's something wrong with me? And I was like, no, it's for the same reason I take you to the doctor to get checkups. It's the same reason why I take it. I actually, the way that I convinced this child to go to a therapist, as I said, I am having a hard time with my mental health. I am grieving. I am not well. I need another set of eyes on you because you're important. And that is what helped them to go and do that, which at the time I felt like, ugh, I shouldn't have told them that. They shouldn't be worried about me. I shouldn't have told them that I was struggling. But again, my husband had just died. Of course I was struggling. There was no hiding it.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that.
But it is interesting when you are going through a difficult time, the certain mental health requirements that you put in your head or checklist of like how you're supposed to handle it instead of just modeling, I need help and so I'm seeking it. I'm worried about you. I think that this would be a good thing. It's such a simple thing to realize now because my mental health is in a good place right now. It's super easy for me to say, but I think it's okay to tell them sometimes these things feel so uncomfortable, and that's part of the problem.
Yes. No, I love that you did that.
I
love
wonder
that you-
how we can normalize this a little bit, maybe for families who have a particularly difficult time. So, like, for example, I had a hard time asking for help, finally did. Now I feel so great. How can I make it easier for other people too? I mean, obviously by talking about it, sure. But I wonder what things that you've seen that have been helpful either for your own kids, for you, that sort of normalizes it in a way that just changes our communities.
I had a great experience a couple of years ago. My niece was really struggling, and she just I wasn't aware of her struggles really. Kind of had heard about it from my sister, but my niece, I was checking in with her, and she asked if we could get together. So we got together, and then she kind of went into depth of all the struggles that she had been in, and we really talked about it. And I felt glad that I could be there for her, but she was like, I just was trying to test out saying these words to someone that was like my mom, and I was just the test there. But I thought so much.
But what a great thing to be
Yes.
a safe place for her.
What a gift
Well,
for her.
so I was so glad to be that person, but I also has given me such a different look at the power of an aunt, and not that I'm powerful at all, but having a community, and especially within a family of being there for other kids that are not your own, but you can still be like a testing ground for them or a safe spot for them. It's made me change the way I reach out to other kids and just see them as I'm so glad I could be that safe spot for her, but I would love to be that for anyone else that would possibly need it. So it's really changed my interactions with nieces and nephews and other kids that just come over to our house. I want to share. I want to be a loving, safe space for any of them. So
And the research does show that makes a significant
Yeah.
difference in a kid's mental health. Wow, that's significant.
Well, and I think that's the ultimate goal, being a loving, safe space. At least that's my goal with my own children. Despite, any kind of challenges, I want to be the safe spot that they land. I want to be the place that they come back to, that they know that there will be love and encouragement and just a safe place, regardless of any kind of discomfort that existed before. I just want to be there. One of the best moments of my recent past, we were on vacation, and my second oldest was unable to come for work reasons. And I got a text that said, "Can I call you later?" from this child. And I said, of course. And they called and they said, Mom, I just want to tell you, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I was so mean to you and I didn't listen to you when you told me that you loved me. And I just want to tell you that I'm so sorry. And I was just so excited to have that child reach out and to be that place for that kid. And I will say our relationship since that time has been great. And part of that has been me accepting them for who they are and not putting my expectations on them.
And that was after years and years of
It was after years and years
struggle,
of
too.
struggles.
Yeah.
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 So
I mean, that's so hopeful
that
for a lot of
happened.
people.
Yeah.
So I would say the struggle started at about 13, and this happened when they were 20.
Okay. That gives us
So
some timeline.
Yeah.
it was about 7 years of struggles.
That's beautiful.
We're coming to the end of our time, and just before we go, I would love just to just go around just one more time, and if you know that's and answer this question. If you know that someone is struggling with one of their kids is having a hard time with mental health, and it does feel overwhelming. You know, we've talked about a lot of specifics that they can do, how to get help, and all that kind of thing. But what do you say to them as a mother from the Council of Moms?
I think, you're on this journey with your kids, and you, for whatever reason, they're in this struggle, and you are too. And I think that maybe I would just say that somehow maybe there is beauty in this struggle, or certainly maybe beauty can grow from this struggle. So even, I don't know, it's in the terrible moment, find the beautiful moment of stillness with your child, and enjoy that. I don't know.
That's great.
Wow, I love that. Kind of like I said before, I think the first thing is just expressing my love for them and telling them that there's nothing that they will ever do or say that will change that. Again, reminding them that they can come to me and tell me anything, that we can handle it, that together we will address it, we'll get the help that they need. I would want to share confidence with them that I feel like things will get better, and that we will not leave their side, that we are with them every step of the way, and just give them big hugs.
Yeah.
and maybe sometimes not talk. Sometimes not talking is more powerful. Just remaining silent and just listening to what they have to say. And kind of going back on what I just said, is maybe not providing answers all the time. It's just sitting with them and listening and just being there with them, that safe place.
I would say, in addition to what you ladies have said already, is to not neglect your own mental health and to recognize that your children's decisions are your children's decisions. They are not actually a reflection of you. And our job is to love them as much as we possibly can. But it is important to be in our own safe space as well, and to have our own mental health preserved so that we can provide them all of that support and comfort.
Oh, well said.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
many good
Thank you
things.
for sharing your heart, your experiences with this. I would just like to end too by saying that I always want my kids to know that I'm on their side, that if they can come with me with anything, a decision that I don't agree with, doesn't matter, mental health, needing help, anything, that they can come to me, that I'm going to be their advocate. I'm going to be on their side, no matter what, has been helpful. And so thank you for being here too, for the mental health of the moms as well, who we have a lot to offer our kids, and it's a lot. And so I think talking about it more openly can help. I hope it has helped someone who's listening, who's thinking, oh, this is overwhelming, I'm alone in this. You're not. And so thank you for being vulnerable about this. This is an important topic. Like I said, a question that we got a lot for the Council of Moms. So thank you for watching this Council of Moms. As always, you can always reach out to the Lisa Show wherever we are to ask your questions, because this kind of stuff, these discussions matter because they affect families and how we live our lives. Thank you for listening to the Council of Moms. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Find us on any of the podcast platforms. And if you have a question for the Council of Moms, please leave a comment for us on The Lisa Show on Instagram or Facebook.